Hey, friends and fans, it's James Black here, producer James, with none other than Dekes Andrew Thompson, aka Dekes. What are we going by today? Because you're wearing like a tie and a vest, and
I
I
feel
think you
like
might
an
be at work.
actual, breaking news reporter right now. I'm actually in a hotel room, right after Jeff Gorton's press conference. So it feels very media apropos to be in my work uniform in a hotel room, breaking
Mhm.
this segment with you. But yeah, Drew Deeks is fine. Andrew doesn't matter. I've gone with both this week. So
Awesome. Okay, well, we just want to take 10 minutes of your time today, viewers, to just review basically what came out of Mr. Gorton's mouth today at his debut press conference with the Montreal Canadiens. And Andrew, I went into this discussion I went into this presentation today with three big questions on my mind. Okay. So I wanted to know exactly, where he was going to go next with the GM decision, how he's going to approach that situation. And we'll get into a bit more detail in a second. I think he did provide a pretty good framework around how they're going to attack that situation and how it's going to work organizationally. I thought that was really useful. I also want to know more about player development. So we talked a lot on this channel and Habs tonight about player development, the lack thereof, some of the issues historically we've seen with bringing newer players into the organization and getting them to an NHL caliber level. And then, the current roster and just the expectations for the season. And I don't necessarily think we got great answers on that, but there's a good reason why, and we'll get onto that in a second. So I'm sure you caught bits and pieces today. Would you agree with me that his French is awful? He definitely will not be filling the void of a French-speaking head of president of hockey operations. Um, it was almost comically bad, actually. Did you catch the beginning?
I did actually, but he had a good sense of humor about it. He mentioned how his golf game has been terrible for 20, 30 years
Yeah.
and that hasn't changed. So, I mean, kudos to him for having a bit of a sense of humor with the spotlight shining brightly on him as the new guy who's supposed to fix everything. So,
100%.
yeah, but that was a good little moment there.
He's actually an affable guy. He seems like a guy you could sit down and have a beer with.
Yeah.
Um, I guess I'll jump into expectations for this year because I think it was the least defined part of the Q&A today, which was he actually didn't make an opening statement. He just jumped right in and said, "Ask me what you want to ask me." And
Yeah.
he
He
seems,
did say in French, "I'll do my best. Be patient with me." So
yes.
kudos to him for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to put things in perspective, he's been with the team for only like 2 days, 3 days. He's been to Laval already. Last night was his first in-game experience with the team, and he preached patience with the fan base to say, "Look, I just started here. Like, I'm just trying to get a handle on who's here from a personnel standpoint. What are the players like? Who do I have?" I think he was being a little coy. Like, he's obviously he knows who's on the team and probably who's being looked at harder than others as far as, maybe people that'll get moved. But give the guy some credit. He just showed up. He's going to Nashville with the team. He's just getting his sea legs, right? So I thought that was fair. Like the lack of detail around, what contracts are you looking at, all that stuff. That's fine. That's fair, right? Like he doesn't need to come out and make any grand gestures on that end.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, the guy literally just walked in the door.
Yeah.
So I think he was clear, though, which is good news for Habs fans that, like Brandon Legacy, we just talked to Brando through Messenger a moment ago, saying how the good news is for this guy is that he doesn't have any emotional attachment to anybody and he's not unwilling to move any contracts. And that means anybody vis-a-vis anyone, including Carey Price, maybe if he's willing. But I
Yeah.
mean, that's not the point about just Carey at this point. We all know that that's one of the biggest question marks. A rebuild has to begin and end with Carey Price. So, but I mean, he's willing to entertain that by the sounds of it. He's willing to entertain anything to do with making this team better to help them win. And that means moving any of those contracts. So, so that's encouraging. And he also mentioned the speed and skill game that the Canadiens are going to play. Brando's been preaching it, like, not just trying to be too conservative. We still look like, Claude Julien or Michel Therrien's team out there some nights. So, we got to really go all in or not on this young speed skill game that they want the Habs to play.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk about approach to player development in 1 second here because he did mention that, and definitely on the topic of just getting to know the team and acclimating. You're right; he won't have that emotional attachment that Bergevin seemed to have, to the point where he was crying when he was talking about players, which is admirable. It's great. He was open about it, but how could you possibly make tough personnel decisions when people become your friends, or you get so close to them that moving them is really going to impact them personally, right? So I think he comes in with a fresh perspective. He's obviously admires the club, respects Jeff Molson, goes back as a Boston resident or from the Boston area, getting his team being beat by the Habs all those years. So he's okay. He put the past behind him. Approach to player development. He did offer some very specific, more specific answers on that. You mentioned speed, fast. You look at today's roster. There's no Adam Fox type. I mean, he's a one of one maybe, but that's the player he mentioned at least once, maybe twice in that conference, which was, when he was in New York, those are the kind of guys they're starting to build around. And you can look at that team now, and it's quite evident. So I don't know, any other points. I mean, he talked about analytics, improving the analytics department. Did we realize that the Habs were not, at the leading edge of analytics?
I don't think we're surprised by that. I mean, I think old school hockey in general, not just the game, but just the mentality or even the personnel. I mean, what we're going to start to see is more new personnel that hasn't been general manager before. That's going to happen, and that's actually a key point I want to just briefly touch on, is that he's not interested in using a recycled GM, I think he put it, or something along those lines. So we're likely going to see a new candidate, possibly Luongo, Briere, one of these newer guys, Matthew Darche. So there's a lot of names that have been thrown around, but I think that's interesting because I'm excited to know what somebody with a brand new vision that hasn't done the job before, that's younger, that isn't too far removed from the game. I want to see what they can bring with the wisdom of Jeff Gorton. I think that could be a really good combo.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk about GM search. Just one last point on a player development, just a couple of points. Yeah. He did mention he does want to keep an eye on local players. I think he understands the importance culturally of having, French speaking or Francophone players, or at least, those who come from from Quebec. That always plays well with the fans. But I think he went back and related it to his experience with Adam Fox again, where, New York guy, New York team, that always helps sell tickets and jerseys. That's probably part of the bigger picture stuff you have to think about as the president. And then he wanted to do a better job communicating and working with the kids when they're drafted. So he obviously senses a disconnect. And he said this about all clubs, is that they can do a better job from when they get drafted to, advising them on what they should be eating, how they train, acclimating them to the pro game. And I thought that was a very telling comment about where he wants to focus. And you look at the draft history, over 40 players. I think, I forget the specific number, Dekes, but players drafted in the last, was it 10 years? You have to get in the comments and give me the specifics that he quoted, but clearly a poor ratio of draft to on ice, conversion for the club. And that's just something where he looks at it and goes, lost opportunity 100%. It starts with communication. So that was telling. That was very telling.
Yeah, I think Habs fans will be encouraged to hear that also, because we all know about the status of our prospects and the failed attempts. The first rounders, we have one or two that are still with the franchise. So yeah, Brendan Gallagher being one of them, Caulfield being one of the other ones. And I think the list is pretty short. If not, it's only then. I'm just trying to go off the top of my head, but you're right. I mean, that's got to be a huge positive for fans to hear that.
Yeah, it was one of the notes I botched, but yeah, definitely a multitude of players got drafted and never saw the light of day, and you just don't
not long enough.
Yeah. Or not long enough. Yeah, they just didn't pan out. The GM search. So real quick, again, the guy's been here for a couple of days. He's getting calls. He was asked specifically about Patrick Waugh. Didn't seem allergic to it, but my sense, Dekes, you mentioned already, was he's looking for a guy that's not a replica of him. He's looking for someone that can complement his viewpoint of the market, of running a team, of acquiring players, developing them. So he even mentioned agents. I know that this happened with Scott Pelinka in LA with the Lakers and basketball in the NBA, but you're seeing more of these agents. They're power players. They can work within the back offices, back rooms, back channels, if you want to call them that, around getting players to look at opportunities, maybe with the club, constructing trades from a different perspective. That's interesting to me. I don't know what agents are out there that are looking for a GM gig right now, but I expect that he'll be taking calls from anyone. So did you catch the part where he said what his over under was for a GM before Christmas? It was the under was before.
I did not catch that.
Yeah.
Part, no.
Yeah. So he was asked directly, will you have a GM before Christmas? And he said, no, if I was a betting man, it would be after Christmas. So
Yep.
Don't expect that. And the other note about just personnel was Ducharme not on the hot seat. He's there for the season. I think he wants to see what's going to pan out with him, but also he's under contract. There's no rush. The team's not going to make the playoffs most likely. So, enacting a coaching change before you get a GM, before you even get the players that GM wants, doesn't seem to be, the right sequence. So, last point, Dekes, I did notice that, there was discussion about the roles and responsibilities. So he wants the GM to deal with the other GMs. Right now, he's dealing with the other team's decision makers. But when they hire that GM, even if it's Danny Briere, maybe if it's a first-time GM, they're going to be handling the communications to the other GMs. He's not going to step in and he's going to give that position a lot of authority. What do you think about that?
I think it's fine. I mean, and what I also like that he did say was that there will be a difference in philosophy between the GM and himself. And that's good, he said, because you need to have, polar opposite opinions sometimes in order to really meet in the middle and make the right decision and come to a consensus with the rest of the staff. So, I mean, I got no problem with that. I mean, Roberto Luongo comes to mind again because, for a guy that's doing well in Florida right now, he may want to stay there. He's comfortable. He's learning a lot, according to Elliot Friedman. So, I think they're going to get the right candidate, and that's what I'm most looking forward to. And if that means they have a bit of a difference in philosophical ideas, that's a good thing because, again, it's going to be two minds and not one. Way too much weight on Marc Bergevin's shoulders over the last while to try to make maybe a non-emotional decision, because we know that things got personal with Bergevin in negotiations with players, and now we won't have to worry about that hopefully anymore. We'll just do business the right way down the middle and make the right decisions for this franchise.
Yeah, and that GM will have a direct line of communication to Jeff Molson. So it's going to be a sort of a nucleus or a brain trust, as opposed to I'm the president, you're the GM, you report to me, then I go back to Jeff. Like, that doesn't work. So I'm curious to see how it works. But my lasting impression with this, having just sort of met the guy now, is that I love his vibe. He wants to come in. He knows people are down. Just imparts some positive energy. He knows that. Obviously, there's huge expectations with the club, but it starts with a positive mindset, and that starts with making sure the players are being looked after. He mentioned that, and just starting from there. You can't start from a place of negativity. You got to start from a place of positivity. So that was a good message to leave off that press conference with, and I think our show. But just a couple points of programming. You might be wondering where this guy is these days. Dale is playing hockey in Sweden. He will be back for some more shows coming soon. Just stay tuned, but just want to wish him well. It looks like he's actually doing quite well over there. So happy to see him in that uniform. You think there's any room on there for a Habs Tonight logo? I think I see a little white space somewhere on the inner sleeve.
If we can work out a sponsorship, I'm sure we'd be open to it. If I still can't even pronounce the team name, so I think I got to work on that first.
Oscar Sham too, yeah. And obviously, if you're looking at a Christmas shopping, 20% off, promo code Dale on the Habs Tonight store. That's habstonight.net. Guys, I really appreciate you watching.
So looking forward to that. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. We're gonna have everyone's gonna have new stuff for Christmas for sure. I'm James. That's Dekes. Just wanted to thank everyone for watching, and hopefully you're as excited as we are after that press conference. It seemed like the right first step for this organization after what's been a few really tough months. And thank you for watching. If you have comments, hit us below. Let us know what you thought of his press conference. Let us know what you think of the show. If you have any comments about what we said, and hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. Drew, I know you got to go back to work, so thanks again for joining me on short notice, and we'll see everyone very soon.
My pleasure, man. See you guys soon.
All the best. Bye.